Hey everybody, in this video we are starting our unit on factoring, and this particular style of factoring uses the GCF, or the greatest common factor. So before we get started on the factoring, I want to do a little bit of review just to make sure you know how to find the GCF. And you know just some basic exponent properties when we're multiplying. Okay, so let's say we'll keep it basic with just some numbers. I wanted to find the GCF between 48 and 32. And a lot of you will be able to just look at that and say that you know the GCF is 16, and it is. If you can do that in your head, fantastic. If you can't, follow along here so you know how we come up with the GCF. Okay, so for 48, I'm going to list all the factors, which is to say I'm going to list every number that I know I can divide 48 by evenly. Okay, so I know 1 times 48 is 48, so 1 and 48 are both factors. Okay, I also know 2 times 24, so I'm going to add those to my list. 3 times 16, and you can use a calculator to help you find these. 4 times 12, I'm just listing all the numbers out, doesn't matter what order. And 6 and 8. If I keep going, 7 isn't divisible, and then the next one would be 8. It's already on my list, and that's how I know I'm done. Okay, same thing for 32, and that list isn't quite as long. I know 1 times 32. I know 2 times 16. And 4 times 8. Okay, so I know that I'm done with that list now because the next on the list would be 8, and it's already there. Okay, so these are the factors. Now we are looking for the common factors. So basically, I'm just going to scratch out every number that aren't on both lists. So 48 is not over here. 32 is not over there. 2 are both there. 16 is both there. 3 is not on that other list. 16's there. 4 is there. 12 is not, and 6 is not. And 24. Okay, so now I just have the common factors. Alright, so next I want the biggest one, the greatest common factor. And so if you check the list there, you'll see that 16 is the biggest number that is on both of those lists. So 16 is the GCF, or greatest common factor, between 48 and 32. Okay. Next, just to review quickly some properties of exponents when we are multiplying. This is something that you have to be able to do to factor out a greatest common factor. Okay, let's say I want to multiply those together. Well, in multiplication, it doesn't matter the order that you multiply, right? 3 times 5 is 15, and 5 times 3 is 15. The order doesn't matter. And all that I'm doing in here is multiplication. So I could essentially reorder this completely to 3 times 5 times x squared times x to the 6th. Okay, and then I just simplify. 3 times 5 is 15. Here, this means I'm multiplying 2 x's, and this means I'm multiplying 6 of them. So really, altogether, I'm just multiplying 8. That shortcut is to add exponents when we are multiplying. Okay, so if I'm putting those together, if I'm simplifying that, this would be my final answer. I think it's best if we jump right into some examples. So here's an example. The instructions are to factor. When we're talking about these polynomials, each thing that we're either adding or subtracting is called a term. So this is one term, 6x squared, and 18x is another term. You may hear me talk about the terms. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so So basically, I first need to find the GCF, or the greatest common factor, between these two. We'll start with the coefficients. The greatest common factor between 6 and 18 is 6. If you made that list like we did earlier with 48 and 32, that's what you would come up with. And then I want you to answer this question. You might want to write this question down in your notes. To figure out what variable should be included in that GCF, look at your terms and answer this question. Both terms have at least blank x's. In this case, this one has 2, this one has 1. So they both have at least one x, and that is how many are going to be included in your GCF. So our GCF is 6x. Now we do the backwards of the distributive property. So I'm going to need a set of parentheses. This GCF 6x is going to come in front of the parentheses. And then we are kind of pretending like we're going to do the distributive property, but we want this to come out to be our answer. Okay, so I know I'm going to have two terms because I'm ending with two terms. Something plus something. And now I'm going to say 6x times what? Times what would go in there? That would give me 6x squared. Well, I already have the 6 and I have 1x, so really I just need another one. Okay, same thing to try to get 18x. 6x times what would give me 18x? Well, I already have the x, so I don't need another one. I just need to get to 18 from 6. And remember, I'm multiplying. So 6 times 3 is 18x. You always want to check your work by doing that distributive property. So kind of ignore this for a minute and let's say 6x times x, that's 6x squared. 6x times 3 is 18x. That's what I started with, so this one checks out. Let's do one more. Okay, 5x cubed y minus 10x squared y squared plus 25xy. Okay, 3 terms, and there are 2 variables here. So it's a little bit tougher, but not a lot. We still need to find that GCF, greatest common factor. This time we have 3 numbers, so we need to find it between 5, 10, and 25. So that GCF would be 5. Then same question. All 3 terms have at least 1x, right? This one has 1. So I can only take 1 out. And also they all have at least 1y. This one only has 1y, this one only has 1y. So I can only take 1y out. Start with that GCF. And then I know I need 3 terms, so I'm thinking, change colors. I'm thinking blank minus blank plus blank. Those signs can change when you have a negative in your GCF, which can sometimes happen. We'll look at some of those later. Okay, now we're thinking, what can I multiply? So if I multiplied the 5x squared, I already have the 5. I need 3 x's. I already have 1 in the GCF, so I just need 2 x's. And I already have 1y, and I need 1y, so this term is done. This one I need to get to 10. 5 times 2 is 10. I need 1 more x and 1 more y to get to the 2. And then 5 times 5 is 25. And I'm actually done here too because I have just 1x, 1y in the GCF. I only need 1x, 1y. So I'm done. We should always check our answer with the distributive property. So multiply 5. X times x squared is x cubed. Y, nothing to multiply, so it just stays there. Minus 5 times 2 is 10. X times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. 5 times 5 is 25. And we just keep that xy. Nothing to multiply it by. That checks out. And I hope this video helped with finding the greatest common factor. These can be a little bit tricky, so we're going to make sure we do lots of practice in class today, and I'll check back with you guys tomorrow and make sure that you're understanding how to do these correctly.